Hello there, everyone. I am Adam, and this is Retro Rewatch's June Hughes event. We are still in the middle of June, so I'm going to be doing more John Hughes stuff. As you can see by my decor, I am wearing a Mr. Mom-themed horror shirt. It's available through Fright Rags. Not a sponsor, just like their stuff. Especially when they do the non-horror version, or non-horror movies in a horror fashion. Anyway, before we get into this episode's video, I'd like to do something a little different. I'd like to address some things that people have been saying or asking. It's more asking than saying. I kind of would be scared if people were just saying things and I'd address them online because that would be interesting. But anyway, people have been asking, "Hey, Adam, how do you make a retro rewatch video?" So before I get started, here's a quick list of my processes. First, I watch the movie. Now, after watching the movie, I make notes in a script. After making the notes of the script, I shoot the video. Now, while editing the video, some people think that it's a good idea to use licensed music, but that could get you a quick copyright claim. Sometimes I act a little childish and stupid, but then again, so does YouTube. Just as a heads up, like I did with Pretty in Pink, I'm doing this not with a full script. I'm doing this with bullet points and notes. So there might be some silliness and mispronunciations and all around shenanigans, including this. This is unscripted as well. So let's get into it. Today we are covering the 1986 John Hughes comedy classic Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It was a staple of my youth. I caught it on HBO when I was a kid, and I remember laughing so much at the antics of this confident, witty, charming character that I couldn't help wanting to be him. And we probably all did, children of the 80s. At one point, we thought Ferris Bueller couldn't be any cooler.
Oh, well, he's very popular, Ed. The sportos, the motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
This time written and directed by Hughes, this is by far his most recognizable film to date. You say John Hughes, 90% of the time, you're either going to get Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller. You say comedy, you definitely get Ferris Bueller. This is listed as Richard Roeper's favorite movie of all time. It stars Matthew Broderick, coming from his breakthrough performance in War Games as the titular Ferris Bueller, as we are taking on an 80s fueled escapade through the city of Chicago, with his best friend Cameron, played by Alan Ruck, and his girlfriend Sloane, played by Mia Sara, as they all skip a day of high school to have an unforgettable day, and us to come with him. So nice of him. Ferris, being the charismatic mastermind that he is, covered all of his tracks for him and his partners in crime to get away with the seemingly legitimate way to get out from a day of high school. Now, the entire first act is mostly Ferris at home, fooling his parents, pissing off his sister Jeannie, played by Dirty Dancing's Jennifer Grey, and constantly breaking the fourth wall to invite us, the audience, to come with him on this adventure. Now, much like Hughes's trope of movies, one of the main characters, Cameron, is a broken character with layers of happiness and dread. He is a hypochondriac mainly because being sick is the one thing he can control in his life. He has a terrible home life. The movie goes on to show that his family life is not much different than John Bender's in The Breakfast Club. Underlying clues of abuse and neglect. It's also peppered throughout the film. Cameron is the drama element in the movie. As I mentioned in Pretty in Pink, it was a drama with comedy elements thrown in there. And that was a departure from the John Hughes formula. Well, this is the epitome of the John Hughes formula. It is a complete comedic movie with Cameron as the drama, and his parts can get heavy if you let it sink into your brain. He's childish, but not in the way that makes him unbearable to watch. But he's childish in an understandable manner based on his home life. And well, Ferris's girlfriend Sloane is there too. She's not really necessary, but you know, the one and only Ferris Bueller just has to have a girlfriend. She doesn't really contribute much to the story, but she's not a bad character either. And that's your main cast. But that doesn't mean that the supporting cast is a slouch either. Throughout the entire movie, Ed Rooney, the school's principal, played by the now problematic Jeffrey Jones, spends the entire day proving that Ferris and company are skipping school. He's obsessed to catching him to the point where he leaves the school to hunt Ferris down. And in my opinion, his performance was probably the best performance of his career. It's a shame such a talent had to be connected to the Jeffrey Jones as we know today. Rooney's secretary, Grace, played by the great Edie McClurg.
I don't trust this kid any further than I can throw him.
Well, with your bad knee, Ed, you shouldn't throw anybody. It's true.
Has become a John Hughes staple, being seen in Mr. Mom, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, She's Having a Baby, and Curly Sue. She also has probably her best role in this movie. Her comedic timing and her antics are comedy gold. Jeannie Bueller, played by Jennifer Grey, is also a really good character. She seems to be the only member of the entire community not fooled by anything her brother does.
If you say Ferris Bueller, you lose a testicle.
Oh, you know him.
She sees right through his charming manipulation and spends the entire movie angry and envious that Bueller can get away with anything. She also ends up leaving the school to try to catch Ferris.
I knew it! Oh!
Other minor characters include Ben Stein, who plays the economics teacher, who also, when he saw the movie, said it was his favorite comedy ever.
Bueller.
We get a quick appearance from Charlie Sheen at the end of the movie. And there's even another quick appearance by Christy Swanson. This time she has lines.
My best friend's sister's boyfriend's brother's girlfriend heard from this guy who knows this kid is going with the girl who saw Ferris pass out at 31 Flavors last night. I guess it's pretty serious.
There are also quite a few quick moment characters in the picture, like the maitre d' from the restaurant and the parking garage attendants, people who are recognizable. There's even a quick silent, just blink and you'll miss it moment from Louis Anderson.
I heard that you were feeling ill, headache, fever, and a chill. I came to help restore your pluck, 'cause I'm the nurse who likes to...
But they all have their little times to shine. And like I said, they're very memorable. I mean, come on, without the maitre d', we wouldn't have the name Abe Froman, the sausage king of Chicago. Now, the parents are absolutely useless, which is a trope in many teen comedies, mainly 80s teen comedies, written and sometimes directed by John Hughes. That when you have a teen-centered comedy, the adults are just there as either the bad guys or just idiots. His parents fall in the latter category. Fueled by Ferris's phony, sick routine and backed by the I'm still your baby talk, which still drives me crazy to this day. You don't want to see that on TV, especially from someone as smart and manipulative as Ferris Bueller, but it gets to me. But his parents just fall for the ruse and continue on with their day. His dad in particular is the stereotypical dumb dad. Now, near the end of the movie, it is revealed that Ferris planned this whole day for Cameron. He wanted to show his best friend that if you let go and take some risks, you can have a happier life. He's worried about his friend. After they graduate, they're going off their separate ways to college, and he wants Cameron to be able to live in a world that isn't being not coddled, but using Ferris as the safety net, even if Cameron doesn't know it. The plot has a deep underlying factor that, as the film comes to its end, you really feel for Cameron and his life, his home life, his health, and everything. And that's basically the gist of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But the question remains, do I still love it? Now, before I answer that question, I still don't know where this music comes from. So, anyway, I wonder if it happens again. Do I still love it? Nothing. The answer is yes and no. See, I changed it up a bit. I'm applauding myself because I don't know what to do. All right, well, watching this movie now in my 40s, I have some issues. And some issues are not age-based, but based on the way things are today. First of all, I know it's a comedy movie, but the idea of Ferris Bueller and his constantly planning and manipulating is a bit disturbing. He moves at his own pace, and he moves the people like a chess game within his plans, and it seems to work with every single person around him, except for his sister. He even manipulates Cameron to let him steal his dad's restored 1961 Ferrari. And in fact, he's always on, except for maybe a few times with Cameron, where it really shows their buddy friendship. But it seems like everybody in his life are his puppets to control to make his life easier. And that's some serious supervillain shit right there. That's like sociopathic. But in a comedy setting. And being in a comedy setting, it works. It works really well. You root for him the whole time. Even though he's never faced consequences. Even when Rooney catches him, he gets away with it with the help of his sister. Another issue is Mia Sara's character is criminally underused. As mentioned before, she doesn't really do much for Bueller's plan other than to be able to come along on his jaunt through Chicago. I would like to see her as a more moral compass role for the trio. Now, a big problem watching this movie is it heavily features Jeffrey Jones. And no fault to Hughes at all. Back in 1986, everything was cool. He was just that character actor that we easily recognize by both his face and his voice. But this movie is so hard to watch with him being in charge of a building full of underage children, knowing who he really is today. And it goes to that question that we've been asking for the past few years. Do we separate the art from the artist? It's a hard question, not knowing how far back his issues go. But some of the stuff he does and says in the film comes off now as, I guess what everyone's saying today is cringy.
Les jeux sont faits. Translation. The game is up. Your ass is mine.
Because you do cringe when you see some stuff, knowing Jeffrey Jones and his problems. But that also being said, in the world of the 80s and 90s, I still believe this was his best role. He did his absolute best in this movie. And another issue, and this is just on my personal thing, is I don't get, nor do I care about the amount of times Dankeschön was sung and used in this movie. I believe it's used 4 times throughout the entire picture. And I guess it's a running gag, but it's such a bland song, and the joke fell flat even since my first viewing. I just didn't get it. I don't get it. The only time it's kind of laughable is during the police station scene when Jeannie's leaving and she's all flustered because she was just caught making out with Charlie Sheen, and she's stumbling over herself, and she just centers herself by happily singing Dankeschön while troping down the stairs. Troping? Is that a word? I mean, troping. Trope is a word. Is trope. Here are the positives. And this is the reason why I gave the movie a yes before I did the no. Not unlike the cliched yes and no. I did it in order. Yes and no. Yes, because the yes vastly outweighs the no. I just wanted to get the no out of the way because positives are much more fun to talk about than negatives. The movie is still freaking hilarious. And it's all thanks to the entire cast, from the main cast to the supporting cast to even some extras. They're all cogs that fit into this machine of a comedy juggernaut. I came up with that all by myself just now. That's an ad lib. You're welcome. I laughed more now at Grace than I did when I was a kid, because when you're a kid watching this, you don't want to see the Rooney Grace stuff. You want to see Ferris being cool and funny and get all the hijinks that they can do. They sneak into places and stuff. But Grace, oh my God, her moments are so damn good. From constantly pulling pencils out of her hair to her playing the less intelligent assistant to Rooney, and even doing the Rooney impression on the phone. It's just fantastic. She's a standout character in that movie, and she needed more. There's even like just a small scene of her panicking. She starts sniffing rubber cement, and it's like stuff you don't catch as a kid. And she's just awesome. Like I said, McClurg's best role to date is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. If she had more screen time in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, it'd probably be that, because of the back and forth she had with Steve Martin, which I might do next year on June Hughes 2022. Be there. Sometimes the way Ferris has to counteract Cameron's doubts and worries makes it really funny. He has to really bring in the I'm Ferris Bueller and I'm telling you this is the way you need to live type of thing. And it comes off as just real good comedy between the two. I'm pretty sure the entire cast had amazing chemistry while shooting the film, because none of it seems forced. And like I've been saying for the past 3 videos now, John Hughes knows how to get a character to come out of that actor. He knows how to get the lines, whether they be scripted, whether they be ad-libbed. It's just absolutely perfect what he does. That being said, Ferris occasionally breaking the fourth wall and addressing the audience is so unlike what you want in a narrative story. It's unheard of on the stage. It was unheard of on film a lot until Ferris Bueller kind of made it cool. And nowadays, you can't go to a Broadway show without them interacting with the audience. You can't see movies. Deadpool, fourth wall break. The Zach Morris fourth wall break. It all happened after Ferris Bueller. I'm not saying that Ferris Bueller made the fourth wall break popular. He just made it cool to do, and John Hughes made it work. Sometimes I look off into the distance. In fact, a lot of times I look off into the distance. Sometimes I'm looking at my script, which I showed you last video that I do actually have a script. Sometimes they're just notes, like today. Sometimes I look at reflections of the video games in this is what I'm doing now. I'm looking at reflections because I'm a squirrel sometimes. I can't focus. That wasn't even at the camera. That's at the camera. Where am I? Oh yeah, the fourth wall. That's what we were talking about. We all feel included in this trio. We all feel included on this entourage, and that's another reason why this film works so much. We're coming along with Ferris and his crazy adventure. Principal Rooney's subplot of him trying to take down Bueller is fantastic, and is executed perfectly. It's so great to see an adult out of his element, and he just can't get a break. Nothing works out for him. All he wants is this one victory to prove that Ferris Bueller isn't all that. The absolute absurdity of the entire county, basically, sending love and support to Ferris for being sick is absolutely hysterical. As the movie goes on, you see more of the Save Ferris movement, and as it grows from just collecting coins in a Pepsi can to seeing it on water towers and even the marquee at Wrigley Field, it's a running gag that works, unlike Donkashane. And a big thing that I've noticed that kind of like just went over my head through my youth was the real friendship that Ferris and Cameron have. There are a few moments where you can see Cameron pushing Ferris's buttons because he's one of the only people who can get past Ferris's manipulations. They have real moments of happy friendship, like at the Cubs game They just act like a couple kids at a baseball game, doing silly laughs and chanting like they're 8 years old again. And of course, the
Ferris Bueller, you're my hero.
You're kidding? Oh,
Wow, that's pretty impressive, man.
you bitch. Oh, you son of a bitch. Come on.
it shows that Ferris can be tricked as well, and that proves that their friendship is wholesome for the most part. Uh, it shows that even a borderline narcissist can care about those close to them. And that's kind of where you draw the line between Ferris Bueller and a sociopath, because he genuinely cares for his friends. And he cares for his family too. I also love that even though they're in adult situations, they're still teenagers, and it shows. Some of the things that they say and do in this movie could warrant a face palm or an eye roll or some other emoji. See, I'm with it. But it's something that teenagers would think to do. Like when Cameron tries to stop him from taking his dad's car, Ferris says, "Well, we'll drive home backwards and get the miles taken off." And they believe it. They try it, and it doesn't happen. And that actually makes sense. It makes sense for teenagers to think, well, if you can go forward, you can take them off backwards. That's not, if they don't know anything about cars, especially Ferris, because he spends the entire movie talking about how he doesn't have a car, even though sitting in his bedroom he has a, back then I can't even imagine what it would cost now. Back then he had an $8,000 synthesizer that he just used willy-nilly, and all the stereo equipment and all this. He had enough for a brand new car in his room, but he'd rather have that and be given a car, I guess. But that's another thing. That's another thing I really love through all of his quotes and his wisdoms and his just general just leadership of a character. His main hangup is he does not have a car, and it just drives him nuts. Now, this is a John Hughes movie, so what do you think I'm going to talk about next? I'm waiting. That's right, the music. And once again, the soundtrack is a songs over score affair with even more obscure music than I've mentioned even in Pretty in Pink. The English beat to the absolute first time the song "Oh Yeah" by Yellow was used in a movie. There's also a very pretty instrumental cover of the Smiths' "Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want" by Dream Academy. Sadly, as eclectic and original as these songs are, and as you can't find the instrumental version of the Smiths song, there was never an official soundtrack released. As I mentioned before, Ferris Bueller's Day Off has been a staple in my life. I have my favorite parts. I have the parts where I know I can get up and go to the bathroom. And now I have more things to understand and laugh at. It's a classic comedy. It's even in the National Registry, so it's, going to be preserved for as long as the Preservation Society holds on to it. It's also listed on pretty much every top comedies list ever, and it rightfully belongs there. When I was an adolescent, I loved everything about Ferris himself, from his confidence to his charisma, and even the way he decorated his room. Which, if you've seen my place, the whole thing, not just this room, I mean, you can just see from this room here, but if you've seen my entire domicile, I still continue that tradition of covering my walls with pop culture. And that is a thing that John Hughes did himself. He modeled Ferris's room after his growing up. But as I grew older, I lost the Ferris inspiration due to him not really being genuine to anyone other than himself. I started to see him as a fictional caricature as he was written, which is okay, because nobody should want to emulate a fictional character. Just be yourself. Well, normally this is where I would get to the end, but there's a new thing. Well, it's not new. It's just a thing I wanted to do. I wanted to get into some fan theories about this movie because I find them fascinating. And some of them have some evidence to back them up. All of these are rumors. Nothing about these are facts, but I have a few that I want to go through just to share with you guys. First, Alan Ruck, who played Cameron, has said that one draft of the ending showed Cameron's dad coming home, who saw the wrecked car and threw him out the same window, killing him. And it also had Ferris and Sloane married and then quickly divorced. That's not really a fan theory. It's just something that Alan Ruck said. There's also the Fight Club theory. The beginning of the movie has Cameron sick in bed, and the whole point of the first act was to get Cameron to get out of bed and go see Ferris so they can go on their adventure. This theory is that Cameron never got out of bed that day, and that he just had a fever dream and imagined the whole thing, and that Ferris doesn't exist outside of his own mind, and he's just there to give him the happy life in his subconscious that his brain really wants him to have. And there are a bunch of subreddits in favor of this theory. I could do a whole extra video on just the Fight Club theory of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Another theory that has a lot of heft to it, and just doing research on it on this movie, I didn't realize it existed, was the Groundhog Day theory. I kind of like it. It's the theory where Ferris keeps experiencing the same day over and over and over again to the point where he can nearly plan for every single outcome. But if you look at some of the stuff that happens to Ferris throughout the schmovie, which is a show and a movie, it's a schmovie. Now this theory has, it has some weight to it, but there are just things that were out of Ferris's control that he could fix if it was really happening like that. So that one's kind of like out of left field, and I like it, but I don't think that was why or anything. Now, this last theory, which is my absolute favorite one, and I think it could probably be canon. It was pieced together by early drafts, excerpts from the novelization, cast and crew members, people who knew June Hughes, and probably some character backgrounds that Matthew Broderick and Alan Ruck did, and just general observations within the movie. The movie is actually about Ferris's guilt due to his past failure of saving another friend from suicide. And he can see the same signs and issues with Cameron. And he sets up this whole day to show that life is worth living and that the future can be bright if you just want it to. Like I said, I believe this theory more than any other theory. I mean, the movie's written the way it's written. There's no like subplot or anything. But if there were a fan theory, or if there was a backstory to the Ferris's intentions for this day, not just to have a fun adventure, this would be it. Because we first see Cameron in bed saying that he's sick when he's just giving up on living for the day. He spends most of the time doing what Ferris wants to, because why not? And most of the time, when there's not a scheme going on, he's generally happy just being with his friend. And you can see that. You can see the smiles and the silliness between the two, and it's great.
Hey, Cameron, you realize if we played by the rules right now, we'd be in gym?
And as someone who has to deal daily with depression, I get that. I get that a lot. Having a friend or friends that make you feel like you belong is probably the best feeling in the world. And Cameron shows that when he's doing what he's doing. He worries, he complains, he cringes, he regrets some things throughout the entire day. And Ferris tries his hardest to get him to see the good, and not just the day, but the world and life and the future. We see Cameron grow so much from the beginning to the end. It's hard to see this and not think the movie is all about Ferris. By the end, Cameron is ready to face his fears, namely his dad's unhealthy obsession with loving a car over his family. And we get a new Cameron who's ready to face that unpredictable future. Cameron Fry is just another in many well-scripted damaged characters that Hughes can write so well. Even in a full-on comedy like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, he has these characters that, upon reflection, you think, wow, that's dark. But watching them in the comedy, it kind of like just like glazes over the darkness. But viewing this movie in my 40s, I'm seeing the damage more and more, and it helps me enjoy the movies more and more. I've noticed that even in something as an absurd comedy as Ferris Bueller's Day Off, layers are important. Now, I forgot to mention one last Hughes trope, the ad lib. And through these last few movies, some of these ad lib lines have been famous lines, and this movie is not an exception. Ferris's line, "Life moves pretty fast."
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
That is an ad libbed line. The original line was, "Life is like a carousel, a great big crazy ball of pure living, breathing joy and delight." That doesn't sound very catchy. So be thankful for Matthew Broderick and his ways of ad-libbing, and thank you, John Hughes, for allowing ad-libbing, or we wouldn't get the Ferris Bueller that we know and love. Thank you again for coming back to watch me talk about another John Hughes movie. I hope you enjoyed this little trip through some of the John Hughes movies of my youth. There are a lot more to talk about, but sadly, this ends the 2021 edition of June Hughes. Did you like this little event? Would you like to see one next year? Would you like to see me do another writer/director for me to cover? Let me know in the comments. And if you did enjoy John Hughes 2021, please let me know by hitting the subscribe button. Or if you just like my videos, please let me know by hitting the subscribe button. Subscribing isn't just a thing. It lets us know that people want to watch these movies. It makes us want to do more movies, want to do more videos, want to do more talking and stuff. And we're getting more done as we speak. And the future of the Cinemadness universe. Verse. I'm not using an echoplex. I'm just going to say it like that. Also, speaking of the Cinemadness universe, verse. If you do enjoy hearing this voice, which I don't know why, because I sound like a Muppet, make sure to check out the Cinemadness podcast, where I talk with my other two friends, and we talk about more current movies. And it's probably more fun than just hearing my Muppety voice talk about things that I love so much. We have a good time on the Cinemadness podcast. It can be found on pretty much every platform where most podcasts are found. And if you don't want to go searching for it, you can find us on cinemadnesspodcast.com. I also want to thank our patrons for supporting us. It shows also that you enjoy what we're doing and you have faith in us, and it's great. We wouldn't be here without people who are genuinely interested in hearing what we have to say. So thank you so much for contributing. And if you want to contribute, our patron is patreon.com/cinemadness. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is a funny, entertaining, thought-provoking picture. It's 100% pure John Hughes, and it's a nearly perfect comedy, and it still holds up. It's still a fun movie. It's just like I've been saying through June Hughes. It's a timeless story that encapsulates the high school experience accurately. How many times have I said that? But unlike the tropic teen comedy, there is something for everybody in this film, for adults, for kids, for teenagers, for people in their 20s, for maitre d's. I highly recommend seeing it if you haven't. And if you have, watch it again. I know I'm going to. But not right now. I have other things to watch. But I wonder what it'll be. You're still here? It's over. June Hughes is over. Go home. Go. Chicka chicka.